Hey folks, Erick Stakelbeck here. Welcome to a special Saturday edition of the Watchman Newscast. We've got breaking news for you. I wish I could say that it was good news, but the Biden administration has decided to drop sanctions against Iran. Now, this actually broke yesterday, Friday, February 4th, but by the time it broke late afternoon, we had already recorded yesterday's newscast, so I wanted to come to you here today on Saturday afternoon with an update because, folks, as you know, if you watch the newscast on a regular basis, we've been talking about this literally for months, especially since November when the nuclear talks between Iran and world powers, including the United States, restarted in Vienna. Now the Biden administration has made the decision to capitulate, to cave to the Iranian regime. Why do I see that? Why do I say that? Because these sanctions are being dropped with no preconditions and nothing coming back to the U.S. in return from the Iranian regime. This is a unilateral, one-sided move by the United States, dropping sanctions on Iran's civilian nuclear program, not its military nuclear program, although the two go hand in hand. The civilian nuclear program, what does that mean? Well, I've got some of the details right here. I'm going to read it right to you off of my laptop. These waivers that the Biden administration and Secretary of State Antony Blinken signed them yesterday, these waivers permit foreign countries and companies to work on civilian projects, quote unquote, at Iran's Bushehr nuclear power station, its Arak heavy water plant, and the Tehran research reactor. Former U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo had revoked the waivers back in 2020, wise move, accusing Iran of nuclear extortion for continuing and expanding work at the site. That is from the Times of Israel. So the United States is permitting Iran to continue nuclear work at some of its major nuclear sites, including the Bushehr nuclear power station. Not only that, it is also gift wrapping Iran $29 billion in sanctions relief. This was for bank accounts overseas. The United States is opening these accounts, I suppose, and they are allowing Iran to have a financial windfall now of $29 billion in addition to that sanctions relief on Iran's nuclear program. So see if you can follow me here, folks, or see if you can follow the Biden administration's line of thinking. They're going to stop Iran's nuclear weapons program by essentially supporting Iran's nuclear program and allowing Iran to do civilian work for its civilian nuclear program, so-called, and countries like Russia and China and some European countries and companies which were restrained because of international sanctions, or U.S. sanctions in particular, from working on Iran's nuclear program, can now say, hey, boys, we're back. Let's get this thing started once again. This was a unilateral move, a capitulation. Obviously, we've been hearing for weeks now that the talks are at the end game. That's all we've been hearing from the Biden administration and Biden officials, that these talks are coming to a close. There's not much time left. And it looks like the United States saw a window closing for these talks in Vienna to succeed. And they decided, well, let's abdicate, let's appease, and let's capitulate. Remember, the powers at the negotiating table in Vienna, the United States, France, Britain, Germany, China, and Russia. And the United States has been holding only indirect talks with Iran. The Iranian regime said, we don't want to meet with the great Satan, as they referred to America. We don't want to meet with the great Satan directly. They can be kind of in the next room, but we won't meet with them face to face. Biden administration makes this announcement, and clearly this is a step in the direction, folks, of a new Iran nuclear deal. A big step, without a doubt, for the U.S. to cave on sanctions. Remember, Iran's been saying from the beginning, since these talks restarted back in November 2021, that they want all sanctions lifted. Well, the U.S. just threw them a bone, a major bone for sure, and you can see the writing on the wall that, okay, to bring you back to the table. This is an incentive. It's to entice Iran to come to the table and to be a party to this deal. The United States is saying, hey, we're going to give you something, basically to bribe you in a sense and bring you back. So the Iranian regime, this is a case of extortion Basically, it has been from the beginning, and they succeeded. Folks, key point here, they outmaneuvered the United States, somehow out-leveraged the United States, the most powerful country in the world, although obviously it's having major problems right now under the current leadership, without a doubt. And Iran had been severely hurt, its economy in tatters, due in large part to those U.S. sanctions which President Trump enforced, and now the United States is pulling a good chunk of them off the table, of course. But I say all that to say, America had all the leverage. The Iranian regime's backs were against the wall, and now that's all gone. Iran came into Vienna from the outset back in November and was making demands. They were in no position to make demands. Again, their economy was in tatters. They had civil unrest, people in the streets protesting. Their backs were against the wall. Extremely unpopular regime among its own people. Yet they came in and made demands and bullied and extorted, and the United States, which was our fear and concern from the beginning, has caved and is now lifting sanctions. How did Iran react, by the way, as we get ready now for the 9th round of talks in Vienna, which will likely restart next week? And we're on the road now to a revived Iran nuclear deal. It looks like that's even weaker, if that's possible, than the 2015 deal. How did Iran react? Well, Iran's foreign minister said, and talk about gratitude, it's not enough. It's insufficient. It's a small step forward, but it's not enough. And there you have it. There you have the Iranian regime's reaction. Again, they are flexing their muscles, bullying and acting like they have all the leverage. And they pretty much do have all the leverage now, folks, because the United States, the Biden negotiating team, has allowed them to have all the leverage. Madness. Now, three diplomats on the Biden nuclear negotiating team, which is led by a hardcore leftist named Robert Malley, 3 of them have resigned in recent weeks because of these disastrous negotiations and because they saw, again, the writing on the wall that the United States was going to cave and agree to a very dangerous deal. And that's exactly what is happening. So next week in Vienna, moment of truth, sanctions now pulled. And when we talk about horrific negotiating and appeasement, again, folks, I want to make this clear. If you leave here with anything today, leave here with this. Iran gave nothing in return. The United States gave $29 billion, gave sanctions relief on Iran's nuclear program. Again, the semantics of it, civilian, military, nuclear, come on. It's all leading towards one thing, and that is the bomb. Don't tell me they're not using the civilian nuclear research to assist and to bolster their military nuclear program. But literally, Iran gave up nothing. This was a unilateral move by the United States saying, here you go. We're gift wrapping this to you. Now will you pretty please come back to the table and agree to a deal with us? Desperation. This smacks of desperation. Iran on America's part. And I'm a proud American. It pains me to say that. So Iran did not have to give up their ballistic missile program or any part of their ballistic missile program, their precision guided missile program, which we've talked about so much here in the newscast, of course. Their support for terror across the region. How about that? Hezbollah, Hamas, Islamic Jihad, the Houthis, the Shia militias in Syria and Iraq. No, Iran renounced none of that. Gave up not one iota, ballistic missile research, nothing. Maybe give up some stockpiles, part of their arsenal, nothing. Literally nothing. It's very important that you understand that this was a purely unilateral move by the United States, which comes at a time, as we've detailed so often here in the newscast in recent months, that Iran is essentially waging a proxy war against the United States, in particular in Iraq and Syria, where Iran-backed militias are attacking U.S. personnel, U.S. bases on a regular basis. This is happening on a regular basis. Last month, we had a slew of attacks by Iranian-backed proxy militias against Americans, attempting to murder Americans at the very same time that the American government is giving them $29 billion, the Iranian regime that's orchestrating these attacks, and plenty of sanctions relief. And I'm sure, again, that Russia and China are relieved as well. Now they can do some business and not have to worry about sanctions and some of these incredibly immoral Western companies, particularly in Europe, that have worked with Iran on its nuclear program as well. So, folks, there you have it. Closing thought here on a Saturday. And again, I want to come to you with breaking news. I'm just coming to you from my phone today, down and dirty, on a Saturday afternoon here, but it was essential that I came to you. Final thought, it looks like this deal is happening, and I said that 2022, I said at the outset of this year, this would be the moment of reckoning. We would know one way or the other where things were going, what is the future of Iran's nuclear deal, and now we have it. Now we know the way it looks like it's going. A major step by the United States to do this. Hey, Iran may still walk away from the table. I told you, Iran's foreign minister said, not good enough. The arrogance, not good enough. But it looks like the deal may be on its way. Now, Congress could perhaps have something to say about this. Ted Cruz, a few other senators have tweeted about this, saying, hey, they're trying to circumvent Congress, is the Biden administration, and ram this through, but we're going to have something to say about it. We'll see. But there's a good chance that there will be a revived Iran nuclear deal. And closing thought, it guarantees war, because Iran is within a year, some say 6 months of breaking out and having that, becoming a nuclear threshold nation. And I'm going to mention Israel as we close, because Israel, under no circumstances, will allow Iran to acquire the bomb. You can forget about it. It's not happening. Israel will do, every Israeli official from every political party, every political persuasion across the board has made very clear, Israel will not allow Iran to acquire nuclear weapons. So when this deal goes down, which guarantees that in the long run, Iran will have the bomb, you will see some very interesting things unfolding in the Middle East. And we have a very strong possibility now of a regional war. I don't know when, and an Israeli strike on Iran's nuclear facilities. I'm not saying it's a definite. I'm not saying when or this year or anything. Just know that this move by the Biden administration, if they continue down this road and they make more concessions and lift more sanctions, it makes war more and more likely eventually. And I'm sad to say that. None of us want to see that, but that's where we're heading, folks. So keep this in prayer. Pray for wisdom for leaders at the table in Vienna. They're not showing much of it right now, but we pray for the kind of resolution here that will make war less likely, not more likely, but I don't see that right now. I see a very bad road that the United States and world powers are heading down, emboldening and empowering the world's #1 state sponsor of terrorism and putting it on the road to having the world's deadliest weapons sooner rather than later. It is some very interesting conversations going on in Jerusalem right now among Israel's leaders. We'll keep you updated on all of it here at the Watchman Newscast. Thanks for joining us here for this special Saturday newscast. Until next time, God bless you, and remember, never hold your peace. See you soon.